ESPN has done it again. They have put out two of the most ridiculous top 10 lists I think I've ever seen. Now, look, I'm not mad at ESPN for putting top 10 lists out. The reality is, people just love it. They just do. And you can say you hate them, okay? But you click on them and you read them, and it doesn't matter whether it's an article on ESPN or a segment on TV or some idiot like me on YouTube or somebody on Twitter or whatever. Anything you make that's called top 5, whatever, top 10, whatever, top 20, whatever, people are going to click on it mostly because they want to get mad. They want to see something they disagree with so they can tell you how wrong you are and how dumb you are. So I understand we're in the off season in college football. People are desperate for content. So you come up with all these kinds of lists. I've been complaining forever that people put out, 10, 15, 20 different off-season rankings. There's just no need for that. None. Not enough changes from day to day or week to week or really even month to month in the off-season to be making 10 or 15 different top 25 rankings. But people do it because we click on it and read it and interact with it. So I get it. I do 3 top 25 off-season rankings myself. But I at least try to align each one of those rankings with something that's happening in college football. I do one top 25 right after the signing day in February when everybody's recruiting classes are finalized. I do an updated top 25 after all the spring games. That's given me an opportunity to watch a lot of teams play during the spring. Maybe some team had a key injury and it makes me want to bump them down. Whatever, who knows? But something. And then I do a final preseason ranking like in August, right before the season starts, right around the same time the coaches poll and the AP poll come out. But, so I understand why people do these lists, but I've got 2 top 10 lists here that ESPN have did today. Actually, not today. One was a week or 2 ago, and I wasn't going to make a video about that. I was like, I'm just going to let this go. But then another one came out over the next couple of days, again from ESPN, and I've just got to get on here and say something about it. And I've got a problem with these lists for two different reasons. Let's start with we're going to start with a list that I basically agree with the order. But how do you know? Let's just get into this here. ESPN released a list. The top 10 programs, not now, not last year, but what they think the top 10 programs are going to be over the next 3 seasons. Why 3 seasons? I don't fucking know. Your guess is as good as mine. Now, they've got Georgia at number 1 on this list, and I'm doing this list first because I know I'm going to catch some shit when I get to the second list. Who's just mad because he's a Georgia fan. So we'll do that on the second list, I guess. But so they've got Georgia number 1. So there's no reason for me as a Georgia fan to look at that list and go, I can't believe they did Georgia that way. It's got nothing to do with where they've got Georgia ranked on this list. How in the fuck do you... It's hard as shit. Go back and look at any top 10 preseason ranking from last year. You're going to see teams like Notre Dame and Texas A&M in there. They finished unranked. It's hard to predict a top 10 3 months away from a current season. 2 months away from a current season. How are you predicting the best teams over the next 3 years, especially in the age of the transfer portal? These rosters in 3 years are going to be completely unrecognizable from what they are now. The entire idea of this list is just friggin' potato. And yeah, they've got Georgia number 1. That's not the point. Here's the top 10. They've got Florida State at number 10. Florida State's going to be the 10th best program over the next 3 years, says ESPN. Tennessee's going to be the 9th best program over the next 3 years. Never mind the fact that Florida State and Tennessee have been 2 of the worst programs in America over the last 3 years. The next 3, top 10. Okay. Number 8, Penn State. Number 7, Clemson. Number 6, Southern Cal. Number 5, LSU. Number 4, Michigan. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 2, Bama. Number 1, Georgia. Now, first of all, this basically looks like a top 10 list for this preseason in different order. So I'm not even going to get on here and say this team shouldn't be here or there. The arguing with this list top 10 programs over the next 3 years is completely ridiculous and pointless. Because some team on this list could come out this year, go 6-6, and everybody's going to go, oh, remember our ESPN said they were going to be one of the top 3 teams over the next 10 years, and now they come out and they go 6-6. Well, what if the 2 years after that they go 15-0 both years? Oh my God, didn't they 30-0 plus 6? Didn't they 36-6 over 3 years? And ESPN was right. This is just the entire idea of making a top 10 programs over the next 3. The entire idea of it is stupid and retarded. And they've got Georgia number 1, so it's got nothing to do with where they've got Georgia on the list that bothers me about that. It's the very idea that list even fucking exists. It shouldn't. That list shouldn't even exist. Now, we're going to talk about a list that does exist. Now, this makes more sense to do. I at least understand why someone would sit down and try to make this list, but somebody's going to have to sit me down and explain this to me like I'm a 3-year-old. Explain it to me like I'm a South Carolina fan or something. ESPN put out another top 10. This one was a couple of weeks ago. I had a couple of people ask me about it on the call-in show. I just kind of disregarded it and moved on. I wasn't going to get into it because that's what the people that make these lists want. That's why they make these lists. They're looking to make people mad so they can get interaction and clicks and traction and yada, yada, yada. And I'm going to fall for it. Again, this came out a couple of weeks ago. I wasn't going to say anything about it. But then ESPN comes out with another ridiculous list. And I said, well, let me just do a 2-for-1 here. And I'm going to try to stay calm while I get into this one. ESPN's top college football programs of the current decade, which is the 2020s. Now, we are in the year 2023. So we have had 3 seasons so far in this decade of 2020. We've had 2020, we've had 2021, we've had 2022. 2020 was the COVID year. We played half a season. There was no non-con games. The schedules were cobbled together. Some conferences played 10 games, some played 6, some played somewhere in the middle. Games were canceled at random every week of the year. Half the bowl games never got played. Some teams didn't play at all. A lot of players on different teams chose to sit out and not play at all. But nevertheless, 2020 was a season in the current decade. A season in which Alabama went undefeated and won the national title at 12-0 or 13-0, however many damn games we played that year. All right, wasn't 15-0 because Alabama ain't never gone 15-0. They can't, and they never will. They'll never go 15-0 in a season. You can write that down. Come back to it later. Do whatever you want to do. There will never be a season that ends with Alabama 15-0. Sorry, won't happen. But so 2020, okay? Alabama wins the national title. They were undefeated, 12-0, 13-0, whatever. I don't even remember. All right? That's kind of the point. It was 2020. 2021, Georgia wins the national title at 14-1. 2022, Georgia wins the title at 15-0. In 2021, they won the national title by beating Alabama. So Georgia has won 66% of the national titles this decade. And again, that's what this list is. This is college football programs of the decade so far. 3 seasons. Georgia is third. Third! Like if I could do this 3 times, they're third. They've got Alabama 1, who Georgia beat for a national championship in 2021. They've got Ohio State 2, who Georgia just beat last year in the playoffs and has no national titles this decade. No national titles in the last, you got it back 10 years before it even had one. 2015, whatever the fuck. 2014, I don't know. Long time ago. And Georgia third. What in the actual fuck? There's no justifying this. None. Georgia's won 66% of the national titles. Yeah, Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3. Let me remind you again, this is a ranking of teams so far this decade in 2020. Georgia's won 2 out of the 3 national titles. In the last 2 seasons, Georgia's 29-1. In all 3 seasons combined, they've only got 3 losses. That's it. 3. Georgia lost 2 games in 2020, 1 game in 2021, and 0 games last year. 3 losses total this decade. Bammers got 4 losses. They've lost 2 games in 2021 and 2 games in 2022. 4 losses. 4 is more than 3. In case there's any Gumps watching, I'm pretty sure that there are. Ohio State's got 5 fucking losses. 5! And didn't even make the playoffs in 2020. Or 2021. This is insanity. This is insanity. Georgia's made the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. Ohio State has made the playoffs 2 out of these 3 years. And Alabama has made the playoffs. So they've each made the playoffs 2 out of the 3 years. The difference is Georgia won them 2 out of 3. Alabama won 1 out of 3. Ohio State won none out of 3. And Georgia's got wins over both of these duds. In elimination games. In the national title game, Georgia beats Bama. In the playoff, we send Ohio State packing. How in the... What justification is there for this? This has nothing to do with 2019, 2018, 2017, 16, 15, as far back as you want to go. This is, I'm going to read it again, ESPN's top college football programs of the new decade so far. That's 2020, 2021, and 2022. 3 seasons. Georgia's won titles in 2 of the 3. Ohio State, 0. Bama, 1. Total losses over that 3-year period. Georgia, 3. Bama, 4. Ohio State, 5. How in the fuck does anybody have Georgia 3rd on this goddamn list? This is insanity. So, congratulations to ESPN. You got what you wanted. You got Uncle Lou all fired up and yelling in the middle of fucking June.